Welcome to F50 Global Insights. Today is our wave 2 of sessions. Today we have two great speakers. Of course, I want to first ask my co-host, Om, to introduce himself.
Hi, my name is Prathamesh. I'm a physician by training and have been working with F50 since the past one and a half year. Along with that, I have a medical device startup called Safe BBM. And what we do is we make the manual resuscitator, which is used in emergency airway management, function like a transport ventilator, which is used in critical care. So,
thanks, Om. Lou.
Hi, everyone. This is Lu. I'm the founder and the managing partner of Fusion Fund. We're a Silicon Valley-based VC firm focused on early-stage tech and healthcare investment. Before I went to the dark side as an investor, I was running my own medical device company focused on type 2 diabetes diagnostic. I sold that company to Boston Scientific and later started to do investment, also with a focus of healthcare.
Great. Since you are an investor, the question today is about the investment environment in Silicon Valley as well as in North America. I believe this virus outbreak is significantly bigger than any people had predicted, especially for Silicon Valley as well as North America. What are the impact to the venture capitalists in the Valley? Maybe I've started this question to you, especially an impact to your fund.
Sure. So actually for us, I would say definitely, as you said, it's a huge impact on the economic and also Silicon Valley. And for VC, luckily we have the flexibility of work remotely. So in terms of fund operation, we're okay. So we still be able to continue the fund operation, talking with the founders and also spend more time on the portfolio management. I would say the only difference for us is now we're being more picky when we're talking to the new founder, and we also focus more on their cash flow management capability when we're talking to the new founder. Meanwhile, we're spending much more time with our existing portfolio company, especially like roughly 12 companies we're sitting on the board seats. We want to make sure they have the right strategy to go through this crisis, and meanwhile have the enough cash flow on bank for another 12 to 18 months cash flow in order to, be the survivor and ultimately become the winner. So we'll keep a close eye on our existing portfolio. But other than that, luckily, our investment sector focus does not got impact at all, as we always invest in B2B focused business model type of company, tech savvy company, and their revenue growth is pretty steady and solid. And for this coronavirus, the company the VC investor, consumer tech probably got the impact the most. But for us, enterprise B2B actually have much better cash flow situation. But for the general VC industry, we definitely heard lots of changes. For example, we heard several VC firms, including bigger one, smaller one, they're taking the next 3 to 6 months off, which means they're not actually making any new investment. They try to observe what's going to happen at the progression of this crisis and probably allocate capital later. Another one we found is actually lots of the existing, also VC, they try to work a lot with, spend lots of time with existing portfolio company, but also not necessarily they have enough pro rata capital to support them in the later stage round. So we probably will see a much faster speed of, company gonna die because not enough cash flow or not enough supporting capital from existing investor. And also the competition from VC are gonna get tougher as well, as we're gonna be more concentrated the capital to the top tier startup companies. So definitely gonna be harder for founder to raise money, and also gonna be more trickier for investor to pick a good company. But in general, we always talk about the downturn is the best time to invest in a good company at earlier stage. No matter Facebook or Google, they're all founded at a downturn. And as I mentioned, as the capital of VC gonna be more concentrated, the chances for the company established now to become the future winner will be much higher. So it's still a good time to allocate capital. It just need to very careful about the strategy and also be proactively to interact with existing portfolio to protect the existing asset, meanwhile allocate the future company.
Okay, great. But the reality is that the pressure or the problem is not evenly distributed. There are many startups are dying. there's a small number of startups get very quick funding because their business are related. So maybe you can share us a little bit your insight, particularly in the health tech industry. What are the sectors has pretty big benefit? What are the sectors are facing pretty big risk?
Yeah, so for healthcare industry, I would say definitely, as you mentioned, there's also lots of strategy changes required for the VC. As I mentioned, we also see lots of VC start to think about change their strategy to be more focused on B2B. Another is definitely healthcare. And this coronavirus thing also really show us the big challenge within the healthcare industry, that the diagnostic devices, diagnostic technology is not good enough. So for us, we've been investing in healthcare, especially diagnostic technology, and also AI healthcare, new tech emerged with healthcare for a long time. Now we heard more and more VC and the founder kind of reply to us saying that they really see this big challenge and also big opportunity, be able to bring new technology to the traditional sector, especially to healthcare, and also see the good, like a huge value of doing the good diagnostic technology will always help us, will definitely help us prevent the disease, but also help us save lots of healthcare expenses if we could stop the disease to progression to the late stage. So I think that's definitely a good indication for people to start allocating capital to healthcare focused innovation. And also on the other side, it's a lesson learned for no matter VC and founder, be able to really think about what is a long-term opportunity versus only focus on short-term gain.
So Lou, another question is, now because of the virus, there's also a market crash and global lockdown. How does that affect someone like you who manages a large fund or is raising a fund?
Yeah, so definitely, as you said, I always talk about, people ask me, okay, this is coronavirus, black swan, it is a one-time thing, how you think it's gonna be last longer? To me, I kind of feel it's just a regular business cycle recession. It's just the coronavirus make it happen sooner. But after this, even coronavirus getting better in the summertime, we're gonna still suffer the recession. Now we call it business, like the economic cycle. So it's definitely a huge crisis, as you mentioned. It's also have big impact, even long-term impact for VC venture capitalists. I definitely know lots of VC firms, they start raising this year. Definitely gonna take longer because institution LP, no matter family office, our endowment fund, from what I heard, they're having all this urgent meeting because they have large allocation to the public market. So they're basically overwhelmed by the discussion of how to really deal with the situation. So it will definitely take longer for the VC who are trying to raise now. But on the other side, another thing I heard is some traditional big institution LP of endowment fund, they found out, okay, the reason they have lots of loss during this crisis right now is because they don't have enough diversity in their portfolio. Then they're also thinking about having more diversity in the future allocation, especially for their VC investment, not only focusing on the traditional top tier VC on Sandhill, but also they're looking for new emerging manager, especially emerging manager with a focus of company that was more solid and stable growth, be able to really go through this crisis with a steady growth. So there's definitely pro and con. And on the other side, as I mentioned, for founder, it's also a good opportunity for VC to stand out during this crisis. Every time when we have a crisis, there's also huge opportunity for people to really grow rapidly with the trend. So that's definitely a good thing as well. On the other side, as I mentioned, it's not only coronavirus, this is also the business cycle recession. So unfortunately, we're in this process of double dip of recession. So it might be worse even than the last recession in 07, 08. And I also say that don't blame coronavirus for everything. just coronavirus really give opportunity to show, for example, the inefficiency of the healthcare, no matter service or healthcare industry in general. Because of coronavirus, we saw this a huge challenge, especially for the global supply chain. Now we're suffering, no matter US or China or Europe, all these different countries. And meanwhile, as I mentioned, the tech company in Silicon Valley, they start to really prepare themselves, for example, freeze the new recruiting, try to cut internal costs since last year, because people are saying that this might happen. And now the good thing is lots of the large companies, they have huge cash on hand. So they were able to maintain their business. They don't need to worry about going through this virus. But also same thing for VC. If VC has enough capital for different VC have different strategies. Some VC only have capital for initial investment without further capital support to the next stage, like a pro-rata investment. Then they may have a hard time to really further support their existing portfolio company. But the VC like us, we have 2/3 of a fund allocate for pro-rata investment. So for any $1 I invested initially, I have at least $2 to $3 for follow-on investment. Initially, definitely the purpose is try to help us to maximize the return, want to put more capital into the winners, but now also give us the flexibility and the leverage to really support our portfolio company to make sure they could become the market winner. And as I mentioned, who become the survivor, who gonna be the future market winner, because their competitor gonna be much less after a couple months. And meanwhile, the market gonna grow much faster when there are only couple players on the market.
I have a follow-up question. I do believe still the pressure or the opportunity are not evenly distributed between the early stage angels or small VCs, mid-sized VCs, as well as late stage VCs, or even PEs. Which one do you think are better in the position of benefiting from this crisis? I'm talking about HealthTech investors.
Yeah, for healthcare, I would say it's kind of similar for healthcare tech and also general tech investor. Maybe a little different is, I would say, for healthcare investor, early stage company, definitely a good time, as I mentioned, market downturn, have opportunity for VC and even early angel investor be able to invest in good company with very cheap price. We're already saying that the valuation probably gonna drop at least to 20 to 30% in the next couple months. So definitely is better. Another thing is the capital will have more leverage to be able to pick the good founder. But for healthcare, another thing is, as I mentioned, we see there's a huge challenge of inefficiency in the healthcare industry, and also diagnostic technology is not mature enough or good enough for us to really, for example, do the early stage diagnostic for coronavirus. So for some grow and late stage company with a mature technology focused on no matter diagnostic or AI in healthcare, edge computing in healthcare to improve the efficiency of the healthcare system, may also get a good market opportunity. But in general, for late stage VC, VC investor or late stage company, now it's a tough time. We all know that for the past couple of years, the challenge in Silicon Valley is a high valuation. We always talk about high valuation is an illusion. Why? Because when market goes down, high valuation also give the company a much hard time to raise the next round, because they need to justify their number with a much worse market situation. And for the growth and late stage companies, especially the one we're doing very well, unfortunately, most of them has a pretty high valuation. And we probably will see some companies start doing down round, and which gonna also be a big challenge for the growth and late stage VC, because they need to think about which company they're gonna save to maintain their valuation, which company probably they have to let it go. But for growth and late stage, it's not like early stage. We could bear, for example, certain percentage of the company go away. It's gonna be very challenging for growth and late stage VC right now. But on the other side, as I mentioned, at this time, capital is even more important. We probably have lots of complaint about the mega fund previously, saying the fund size is too big, like $3 billion, $8 billion. But on the other side, we have to admit now with this market situation, the mega fund will have much bigger leverage to decide who's gonna be the survivor in the growth and late stage. within their portfolio and also across the market. The VC firm who does not have that huge amount of capital, even they're a good VC, they probably have a harder time for competition and also help their portfolio company for competition.
I want to invite Lo to give a summary of suggestions, especially to our investor community.
Yeah, I would say the first suggestion would be really work closely with your existing portfolio company. From what we did, we sent out the email since a couple of weeks ago to really kind of alert the founder about the coronavirus situation. Actually, last year we started to talk with our existing portfolio company potential risks on the market that they need to work on their cash flow issue. And we also have all this check-on meeting, check-on conference call with them for the past months in order to make sure they have the right strategy. And because we do all of this, the preparation early on, when we have a recent check with our existing portfolio company, they all have at least 12 to 18 months, or even more than that, for cash flow, which means they're going to have much better situation going through this crisis. So definitely spend time with your existing portfolio company to make sure they have the right strategy, they know where to find the capital if needed, and also encourage them to talk to their existing investor to find out how much capital support they could have. And another thing, as I said, reserve capital is very important. On one side, we talk about reserve capital to support the existing portfolio company to make them become the future winner. But another thing we need to think about is having the reserve capital could also make sure you could place the defensive investment. What I mean is during last crisis, we see this situation happen, and some investor may put in the term for the next stage and ask other VC basically do pay to play. If you don't have reserve capital, you probably got kicked out from this round. Even company continue to grow, you're not in the game anymore. So that's how we call the defensive play with the capital reserve. So that's also related to the investment strategy. Another thing, as I mentioned earlier, is really think about the strategy shift if you're more focused on consumer investment. And also, meanwhile, don't be scared of by the market. When there's a big risk, there's big opportunity. And if we grab the opportunity in the right way, we're gonna be the next generation of the future leader for the VC industry.
Thank you, Lo.